The following podcast has been rated PGN. Parental guidance is neglected.
Boy, it's been a long time since we've had a little father-son chat.
I am your father.
Father, if you can hear me, I failed.
Don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I'm here with my dad.
I know what you're gonna say, son. And you're right. You're right.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
I've abandoned my boy!
Hey everybody, if it's a father and son talking about movies, we are probably the 15th highest ranked podcast out there.
I would hope so.
You have found us, the PGN podcast, better known as Parental Guidance is Neglected podcast. We are on episode what, Jackson? I caught you off guard. You weren't prepared for that. Make a guess. Make a guess. It's either 750 or somewhere around 51, 55, somewhere in there.
I feel like I always lowball 58.
58, maybe.
Right,
I don't know. Young Jamie, you look that
up.
up while I'm reminding you all to thank you for tuning in to our once every 2-month podcast. At this rate, we are so behind. And we sincerely thank the 7 or 8 of you that continue to listen on a regular basis. And
I have good news.
Oh.
It is episode 58.
58.
Look at that.
Nailed it.
On the dot.
Nailed it. Happy Mother's Day weekend to everybody. Hopefully this is going up tomorrow, the day before, or if not, maybe on Mother's Day. We'll see what our editing bay is like. Before that, you have found it. It is me, Regan Burns, and my son, Jackson Burns, who is broadcasting, as always, from his university home, where he is away studying film to one day become yet another unemployed director of photography who's working part-time at Home Depot and hoping to God...
Home Depot's not a bad gig, I'll tell you.
I got news for you. There's a lot of DPs working there. But we think that Lithuania project's going to come through, and he's going to be on set before you know it. We have so many flippin' movies to get through, and we don't want to turn this into one of those Rogan-esque 3.5-hour podcasts. Not that I couldn't just listen to that for 3.5 hours. But yeah, before we get to all the catch-up and everything, my son was in lower Southern California this week in the San Diego area shooting an independent film. Jackson, in a nutshell, this was not a school-related project, right? I know that there were some people that you go to school with who were pulled in, but this was kind of somebody who knew something. What was your job position on this film? Is this going to be the big hit at the Telluride Film Festival? And what did you learn from your experience in such a role?
Yeah, it was a passion project funded by a friend of a friend of a friend that I just happened to get called on to.
Love a passion project where they've got a vision. Did this guy have a vision? Was it a vision? He saw everything.
He had a vision. No, he had a vision.
Okay.
I was the first AC, so I was the first assistant camera.
Gotcha.
I pulled focus and I helped the director of photography with any kind of camera-related issues.
Mm-hmm. Since you bring it up, and we're not going to get too techie here off the front, because trust me, we're going to talk about the new Zendaya movie and Apes and all kinds of stuff like that. But you told me kind of an interesting fact this week that I did not know, and I wonder what you think the future of it is. You said you pulled focus on this film, which basically means you're kind of at the camera, and as focus changes from something in the foreground to the background, you adjust so that suddenly instead of the face closest to us, we might see the face behind us. But you've mentioned that this is quickly becoming an automated thing in some cameras and some sets. Is this the way of the future? And pretty soon, auto pull focus guys are not gonna have a job. Are they at home? Let me ask this: Are they hosting at islands right now, or are there always gonna be a place for them?
I was really worried going into it. We were shooting on a camera called the DJI Ronin 4D, and I'm not going to get too nerdy, but it's the same camera that they used to shoot a lot of Civil War, the new Alex Garland movie that I'm sure we'll get into later.
Yeah, I thought you were. I thought you were going to say porn, but go ahead. All right, Civil War.
Not porn, thankfully.
Okay.
And kind of the big thing with this camera is that it has built-in stabilization. So like when you're holding it and you're moving around with it, it's going to stay pretty much exactly in the same spot. But it also has a built-in autofocus feature that I was very worried about, and the DP was kind of like, we're gonna just try it and see if it works.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad actually. So I'm not that worried about it.
Okay.
The autofocus was pretty unnatural and jarring, and it oftentimes had issues knowing on what to focus on.
Yeah.
So it's way less. You have way less control over what it is, and I ended up pulling focus for pretty much every single shot except for like one or two inserts.
All right, listen. I just want to make sure you're getting.
We're all right for now.
I want to make sure you've got some.
I don't know
some kind of. I just want to make sure you have some kind of future. I want you out of this house. I want you.
Listen, I got bad news for both of us. I don't know if you saw it, but the first ever fully AI generated music video came out, and it's pretty.
It looks good.
We might be done.
Oh boy.
We might be done for, man.
Man.
It could be raps.
What was the act that the music video for? Was it for someone big?
It was for a band I had never heard of called. Oh my god, what were they called? They had some name that was very fitting for. I'm looking it up. Hold on. Called Washed Out.
Huh. I did read or hear somewhere this week that a country star, I don't know country music. I don't know if it was George Jones or George Strait or I don't know, some country guy. Those guys could both be dead for all I know. That some country star was having an entire album being made with his voice through AI because he can no longer sing, but he writes these songs and he then he has the music, he writes all the medleys or whatever, but then the AI does his voice. Like it can listen to old records of him, so the AI is performing in place of him, even though he wrote the song. What do we think about that? That's crazy.
That's pretty crazy. I don't mind that as much, just because that's not taking anyone's job, and it's on as long as it's on his own volition, and it's not like this guy's dead, and we're just we're just putting out shit that he never wanted the world to see with something he didn't even sing. I have a far greater problem with Washed Out and their music video. You just have to be anti-art to do that. You just have to be anti-people, anti-human.
It's just like
it's pretty disgusting to me, honestly. I don't even. I have nothing else to say about it. That's jobs for people that were just.
It's like, what is the vision of your video? And they're like, I don't know. It's whatever the computer spits out.
Whatever the computer says.
I
don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. Hey everybody, welcome PGN Podcast. Parental Guidance has neglected two generations talking movies. One is in his early 20s studying film. The other one occasionally sells diapers and dog food on television. And I think we all know that I'm probably in my upper 30s right now, which means I had my young Jackson when I was 12. We'll just leave it at that. Although, you know what? I'm going to be 56 this June. I'm not really uptight about my age. I've never been the guy who's been like, when someone asks me, how old are you? I go, I just hesitate for a second. I don't know. Do you feel?
I think that I'm starting to get there a little bit, just because I still feel 12.
Right.
And I think yesterday I was like, oh, summer's coming up. That means like birthdays. My birthday's in August. I'm in birthday territory. And I was like, I'm going to be 22.
22.
Shit.
Here's how you have to remember that. You have 8 more years of your 20s. Just think. Yeah,
that's true.
Think of it that way.
It's all. I had a conversation with my girlfriend and some friends the other day where it was like we had this talk about how we're getting to the age where doing things is no longer impressive. Where it's like you see on the news and it's like 16-year-old kid, just wrote an entire album in his bedroom, and now it's like 22-year-old guy wrote a movie. Like, okay, your job, I guess. It's not impressive anymore.
You're almost at the age where it's like 22-year-old guy shoots his own movie, and people go, "Well, it's about time." I mean, what was he waiting for?
Exactly. Yeah, what's going on?
It's like there's 17-year-olds out there producing and making their own movies. What the hell took him so long?
This is the last story we'll talk about today. Movies. Have you heard about this whole Wesley Wang movie thing? This high school kid.
Mm-mm.
So this is a story that I've been following pretty closely. That I have mixed feelings on. There is mind you, very wealthy high schooler who has put out a movie on YouTube. It's very everything everywhere type vibe. It's called like Nothing and Everything. It had a very high budget. It's got professional working actors, and it had a crew of 30 people. But he's in high school, so we have to make sure we're not critiquing him too hard, I guess.
Right.
But he got a cold email from a filmmaker called Darren Aronofsky. That basically just said, "Would you drop out of Harvard and work for me?" And he's now going to produce a feature film underneath Aronofsky's production label.
Wow. Jackson is
big picture.
Jackson, has anyone called you besides Shutterfly to see if you want Christmas cards half off this year, or?
I got an email from Baskin Robbins yesterday asking about my information. So
your birthday's coming up. You get a free scoop of sherbet. So you got that to look forward to. All right. Also, on a technical note, too, if for some reason we just found out before we went on the air today, Jackson's microphone's a little bit wonky today. So if he sounds a little bit tunnely or fishbowly.
Yeah, my mic broke. I have to get a new mic.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, so we're going to upgrade. And next week, he's going to sound just as smooth as this radio voice coming to you from this high end.
What's that guy? What's that one famous radio guy? Ira something? Ira Glass?
Ira Glass? Is he the one who talks smooth?
Is that somebody?
I don't
know.
So.
I feel I think it's the NPR guy. Isn't that not the NPR guy?
I don't know. I don't listen to that kind
I'm sorry. How do I know about the NPR guy and you don't? I feel like that's more your generation.
I don't listen to NPR. I never really did. Not that I don't
either, but that's just
culture. I line up with everything culturally that they do. I just find it boring though. I just kind of
Ira Glass, a famous NPR guy.
Hey, welcome to PGN Podcast. Coming up in the hour, we're gonna have the news headlines. Also, special interview with taxidermist Bob Franklin. Doing a wonderful thing with muskrats.
Yeah. All right, where do you want to start? We have a lot to go over. I'll let you kind of helmet.
You know what? Let's bang this one out of the way. I saw it last night. It's the hot movie. Here's the thing, guys. We understand that you can go online literally the day a movie opens, and there's probably 15,000 people posting reviews of the film. So if you're looking for the timely movie reviews, this probably isn't the podcast. This podcast is more for the lazy guy who has not made it out to the movies. But if you're like, I've got to know what they thought about this movie, we don't have press screenings.
If you want the intergenerational scoop on the new flick, this is where you come.
Yeah. This is then like, I never did see that. I wonder if it was good. Or you've already heard about it 800 million times, and you want our perspective on it. But since I did get out to the theaters last night, and this is going up this weekend, I did see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes last night. Jackson did not. My expectations were pretty high for this. Jackson, before I tell you my thoughts real quick, and again, when we haven't seen both the movies, I'm not going to dwell on them too long because I like to hear what he thinks as well. But did you see all three of the reboots? The James Franco one?
I did.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the original not the original three. Sorry, the trilogy, the newer trilogy.
Yeah. Rise.
What was previously a trilogy, although I'm hearing that they're kind of marketing this as like a sequel trilogy. Like the first three are kind of like Caesar's arc, and this is kind of a new story. I have not seen it yet. I had plans to see it this weekend. Might not work out. I might see it next week. But I don't remember much from the original three. I remember loving them, and I remember having a lot of fun. I remember Woody Harrelson being great. As well as Andy Serkis.
I thought that the relaunch, I thought that they got better with time. I thought the first one with James Franco was good. I thought the second one got a little better, and then I thought the third one, The War of the Planet of the Apes, where Caesar's arc kind of ends, was the best. Here's the thing with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. It very much feels like Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where it's setting up a lot of things. It's directed by Wes Ball. He's most popularly known for directing those Maze Runner movies, of which I never saw. Did you see any of the Maze Runner movies, Jackson?
No, I did, but they were pretty bad. As someone who was a fan of the books, although I do, I thought that Matt Reeves directed this one as well. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of disappointed to hear that he's not helming this.
Yeah, I don't know if he produced it or not, but Wes Ball's behind the camera. Freya Allen is really the only human being in this movie, along with a brief appearance by William H. Macy. Pretty much this is ape on ape. Now, with the previous Planet of the Apes movies, it's really been about the conflict between humans and the apes themselves. Here, this is all about hierarchies of apes, whether it's the gorillas and the chimps. The movie opens in a small tribe of apes that raise and train hawks, I guess, to fish for them. I thought that was kind of a weird vehicle, but they're obviously very tame. They live in trees and little homes built up. And then suddenly...
Matt Reeves not affiliated with this movie.
There goes your thumb.
Ignore the thumbs up. That was not a thumbs up. But Matt Reeves is not involved. So that was involuntary.
This is without Andy Serkis. Owen Teague is kind of the new Caesar. This movie takes place several hundred years after Caesar's death, and a lot of the movie has to do with how his legacy is reinvented and portrayed. There's a lot of allegories here politically. There's people killing in the name of Caesar, and if you saw the movie, Caesar was not about just killing. He was about making humans and apes live together. But pretty much this is an ape-on-ape movie. Owen Teague, who you might recognize from the It movies, he plays the new main hero, Noah.
I do like Owen Teague.
Yeah, he's good. And he's good in this. In fact, everybody is actually very good in this. Again, there's a lot of CGI, obviously, which I'm not usually a huge fan of, but I think they're giving the humans now enough in this format to kind of mold around their faces, and the voice work is incredible. The film is done really, really well, but it really has a very stagnant feel through a lot of the 2.5 hours.
Sure.
Like, it's a little bit predictable. You kind of see where it's going with the hierarchy of how Noah's going to rise to bring his tribe to rise against the gorillas who have taken them hostage and using them as slaves, to break into a human fortress that may or may not contain the key to them combating humans. That, and slight spoiler alert here, even though the humans do not play a huge role in this, there is an undertone that they are somewhere regrouping, and we do find that there will most, in fact, be a bigger presence of humans in the next two to come. I liked Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I think it's fine as a starting point, but it did not have the same...
a lot of setup.
A lot of setup, a lot of speeches, and a lot of exposition. I think this easily was a 2-hour movie that did not have to be 2.5. I'm going to give it a slightly above average grade of a C+.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It didn't blow me away. It kept me interested. But it doesn't do anything new with the genre. I guess unless you want to say this is about, apes rising up against apes and factions within the, as if to say it doesn't matter who rules the world, they're going to end up fighting each other for who rules it in the end.
Sure.
But I'll be curious to see what you see or think about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Also coming up a little bit later, I've got reviews that I'll do separately and very quickly of the new Netflix movie Unfrosted, directed and written by some guy named Jerry Seinfeld. I haven't heard anything about it this week. There's no press on this movie at all.
Well, I mean, he came out and said some really dumb shit because I think he's one of the stupidest people to just be in media right now, frankly. I don't know. I've never been a big Jerry Seinfeld fan. I know that he used to... I'm sure his comedy used to be good, but I did see someone do a stand-up bit recently that I think really summed up my feelings of, like, he's just not the everyman anymore.
No.
You can't. He's a billionaire, and it's like when you're trying to do this stuff of like, well, I was walking down the street and tacos are so expensive now, and it's like, well, you haven't checked your wallet in decades. Like, I don't buy it.
That'll be coming up along with my reviews of Abigail and Damsel on Netflix, as well as Sasquatch Sunset, which Jackson did not take in. And I also saw Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I'm going to run down those in a little bit, and then we're going to check in with Jackson's Art House Corner, as well as a couple films he saw as well on his own. But let's talk about the stuff that we did both see, and that would be the movie Civil War and Challengers. Now, Challengers just opened last week. Civil War is kind of come and gone now. It might be playing still in a few theaters. That was a big controversial movie. Maybe it deserved to be, maybe it didn't. But let's talk about that one first. Civil War, Jackson. It's directed and written by Alex Garland, best known for Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Jackson's favorite movie of last year, Men. It stars Kirsten Dunst, a guy who I like to kind of describe as the poor man's Pedro Pascal, Wagner Moreira. Looked just like him. And Jesse Plemons is in this. And by the way, I won't go into Jesse Plemons just yet. I'm going to make a prediction right here. I'll talk about the movie, thoughts on the movie. Who knows what's coming out the rest of this year? Jesse Plemons is in the running for Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards next year for Civil War.
I buy it. I buy it.
But again, it's still early, but his name will definitely be thrown in the mix right now. Civil War, if you don't remember, it's about the world has pretty much gone to shit in a ragtag group of journalists who is, and by the way, in a dystopian world, who's watching the news? I mean, these journalists are so... I'm like, is there any newspapers being printed anywhere? I mean, I believe we're at Civil War. But these journalists they're racing to Washington, D.C. to interview the current president before the inevitable coup that everyone knows is happening in any minute. So they've got to get there before he's assassinated or taken over. It's Civil War. I have a lot to say about the marketing in this movie, which I think was a complete and utter debacle. And also just how extreme...
Including their use of AI for posters, which is another thing that we can talk about. But
it's an extremely graphic movie. But before I get into all my thoughts, Jackson, Civil War, did it deserve the controversy that it got? Is it a good movie? Is it a bad movie? Is it somewhere in the middle? What do you think?
I've been trying to think about how I'm going to talk about this movie since I saw it.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a lot of feelings. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I'm going to start off by saying this. Mm-hmm. It is a improvement from his last movie.
Which was Men.
Which was Men.
Yeah.
It is better than Men was. I did not leave nearly as frustrated.
So far we agree.
I think that I don't know. I've never had this happen to me during a movie before. This is a movie that is baked and based in American culture.
Right.
It has never been more obvious to me that this movie was directed by someone who grew up in a different country than when watching this movie.
Gotcha.
Alex Garland is British, and not to say that he has no say in,
Right. You can still...
I'm not sure if he lives in the U.S. now. Sure. But the setup of this movie is so fantastical and absurd and ridiculous that it almost throws off the whole thing for me. Mm-hmm. And I will admit that I went into this movie with some bias, having heard some interviews of him talking about the situation that occurs in the movie. Okay. According to, again, this is not said in the movie, but according to Garland, the reason why Texas and California have this kind of weird alliance throughout the film, and it's kind of those
weird,
two, which is very weird, is that he says that he believes that in a world where America would elect an extremist president, that people would ignore political lines and come together in unlikely ways.
I don't know if
Have we been living in the same country for the last 8 years?
Yeah.
Because I don't buy that. There's a lot of lines here that I think allude to things that could be political territory. There's an allusion to the Antifa massacre that made me laugh out loud in the theater because what are we talking about?
Right.
This movie tries so desperately to be apolitical in a movie that begs to have some kind of stance.
Yeah, it does.
Somewhere.
Definitely tries to ride down the middle.
And I don't respect that. Frankly, I don't hate this movie, but filmmaking and people are abjectly political, and to make a movie that is so baked in the culture of the U.S. as it currently stands, and to completely ignore any kind of real politics, I think for me is I just don't buy it. I don't buy into and just Alex Garland as a filmmaker. I mean, it really, if you feel the need to say something about the political state of the U.S., maybe I'd like to see you show some of that in real life as well. Yeah. He also made an interesting statement where he said that if the left wants to, You're never going to believe this. This is an extremely unique idea. If the left wants to beat the right in popular culture, Dad, we need to focus on voting. I think that's a tactic that no one's tried before. So if we just, guys, can we all just put our focus into voting? That might work this time around.
Let's get out the vote. Well, I would say, a completely different reaction to this movie than you did. And I think I think this really comes to the heart of this podcast and what makes it a little bit unique, is that I think Jackson's generation and my generation enter the theater, especially for a film like this, with different expectations, different things that we're looking from, and different shades. Not to mean that I don't understand anything that Jackson is saying or hear all that stuff.
Sure.
I kind of tried to put all the political stuff aside. I had already heard a little bit about, like, is it apolitical? What is he trying to say? What is he trying to do? Is this really a true reflection of America? Is there solutions here? I kind of put all that aside, and I went in and just said, I'm going to try to enjoy the movie. Which comes to my first big problem. This movie is marketed like some kind of 80s adventure film. It almost felt like a Roland Emmerich, like, apocalyptic helicopters flying in and dun-dun-dun action thing, and it's like
Apocalypse Now type.
And this is a extremely violent and graphic and at times very jarring emotionally and visceral film that I was not expecting. And I wasn't mad that it was. I just could see Alex Garland going, because if you watch the trailer of this movie, it almost looks like an action film, and it was certainly not. I actually really enjoyed Civil War, probably till the last act, but I was really kind of putting all the political stuff aside. I was into the road picture kind of feel of it, of like this team of people on the road. I knew they were going to encounter something in this city. It was going to be more about the different, call it mini adventures that they have. And I actually kind of enjoyed it. I was not crazy about the young girl who plays the up-and-coming reporter. I saw the ending coming a mile away, and then by the time they get to Washington, it is so ludicrous. And that's almost when it becomes an action movie. That's almost when it becomes the movie that it was marketed as. And by then, it feels like, why are you guys plugging on this action film onto something that's been kind of this visceral bonding road movie between the 4 or 5 of them. Obviously, Jesse Plemons is fantastic in the 10 to 15 minutes that he has on screen.
He is absolutely incredible. That easily the best part of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just in your throat. You're just swelling. I thought Kirsten Dunst was fine. I thought the cast was all fine. I said, with the exception of the young girl, I just felt her character was a little, I don't know. Oh, she's hungry for the story, and Kirsten Dunst sees herself, younger version in her.
Yeah, it's a little cliche.
But I can't say that I wasn't interested in this film, and as dark and as graphic as it got, I was entertained. But it definitely went off the cliff at the end. It went way off the cliff, which almost sunk the movie, but not for me. I think if you can put aside all the political stuff, and it's a shit show when it comes to whatever it's trying to quote-unquote say. If it's trying to say anything, by the way.
Sure.
I'm not even sure if it is really saying anything. I'm not sure.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't know. Me and you both, man.
Right. If you're going, the movie was horrible because I didn't know what it was saying or what the message was, I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
But I was captivated by it. I could not look away. It definitely held my interest. I'm giving Civil War a very modest B-. I think it's... I can give it enough credit. I thought it shot really well. I thought he does some really interesting stuff, especially with the entire sequence when they are trying to film that first firefight from the guys in the upper part of the building and they're all around the corner. I thought there was some incredible stuff shooting wise.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What are you coming in at on Civil War?
I didn't hate it as much as I'm coming off as, because I do think it had some in a vacuum, some great moments.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with a 4 out of 10. Again, far better than my review of Men was.
Yes.
And here's the thing. Maybe I'm thinking about it now. Maybe this is a generational thing, because I think that it is kind of baked into the culture of Gen Z that we are kind of the ones who we're being looked at as the ones who kind of got to come in and clean up the mess in a lot of ways. You know, there's a lot of eyes. There's a lot of eyes on my generation, especially right now. And it just feels like I have such a respect for movies that come out and immediately have an opinion. Mm-hmm. It's part of why I love La Haine so much. Mm-hmm. Like, La Haine is cut and dry. Matthew Kasowitz makes it very clear what he's trying to say with that movie.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't have time for another movie that goes, well, you make up your mind. It's your generation's turn to fix this. I just... I
get it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think I went into the theater with different expectations.
Yeah, I understand. And to be fair, people that I saw it with actually liked it a lot.
Yeah.
I was kind of alone in that.
Yeah, it's a B- for me. It's a 4 for Jackson, but that's what makes cinema fantastic, ladies and gentlemen. Here at the Parental Guidance is Neglected podcast. Hey, make sure you're following Jackson at Jackson N. Burns on TikTok and X.
Twitter, not TikTok.
Twitter, sorry. He's not on the TikTok anymore. He's on the Twitter/X and Instagram. And then I'm at Regan.Burns on Instagram. And, of course, follow us at PGN Podcast on Instagram and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Just get that in now so that at the end I could just say goodbye to my son and we can get to dinner.
No, good stuff.
We're going to be talking about challengers a little bit later. I think we both have a lot to say about that. I kind of tipped my hat to Jackson.
Yeah. You had a slip up over text where he kind of just told me what he thought about it on accident.
Someone from my run club texted me at the same time as my son and said, is there something I should go see? And I kind of tipped my hat sending that person what I thought of challengers, and then realized I had sent it to Jackson instead. So he might know where I come in on that. We'll see if he agrees. Also, we'll be checking in with Jackson's Art House Corner, and we had our Please Love It As Much As I Love It challenge. I gave him one of Christopher Guest's earlier films, one of his rare scripted ones, called The Big Picture, and then Jackson had me watch the Iranian Palme d'Or winner. It actually tied the year it won the Palme d'Or with The Eel. Iranian film called Tastes of Cherry. We're going to get to that in a bit as well. First, let me run down just a couple of the movies that I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on. Sure. I saw Millie Bobby Brown, her Netflix movie Damsel. That's the princess who does not need the prince. Directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadilla. Yeah, he did 28 Weeks Later. Basically, she's the daughter of Lord... Yeah, I know.
Yikes.
Yeah. She plays the daughter of Lord Bayford. That's Ray Winston, and her mother-in-law, Angela Bassett, who have made or sworn her or given her hand to marry the prince of a neighboring... I don't know, what do you call it? Neighboring realm, if you will. Robin Wright is the queen of that one. So she'll be marrying a prince sight unseen. The only problem is that town's got a little bit of a problem where they have to sacrifice all the princesses to a dragon. Why do they feed all their princesses to dragons? Because years and generations ago, their lineage killed this dragon's babies.
Obviously, to stop the great curse.
To stop the great curse. She gets thrown into a well, and she gets to battle a dragon and kick ass for about an hour and a half.
Sure.
What's your thoughts on Millie Bobby Brown,
I was just going to ask you that. I think that they are really trying hard to make her work, and she is very good in Stranger Things.
She is.
I don't know if they've found where she belongs yet.
I think the problem...
To be fair, they keep putting her in really bad movies. I mean, the Godzilla vs. Kong stuff isn't great.
No.
I never saw the Sherlock Jr. stuff, but I heard that was really
doesn't look like
cut and dry, too.
Yeah. I think they're doing a sequel to that, too. Eloise Holmes, or whatever it is. I don't know what the dragon...
Vanilla Holmes, that's what it is.
Yeah,
it's not
Vanilla.
It's
something like that. The dragon sequences in this are executed pretty well. Millie's fine. You know, I mean, okay. She's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think even teenagers and young girls are going to find this that great. I don't think boys want to watch... I'm not being sexist here. I just don't think boys are that interested in this type of film about a girl finding her way. And I don't think that girls are that interested in dragon slaying. So I'm not sure if it appeals to them or not. I think this did mediocre for Netflix. It's a D+ for me on Damsel.
Yikes! Yeah.
But I guess I'm going to keep watching Millie Bobby. Stranger Things is finishing up pretty soon, right? I mean, it's coming.
I don't know. It is. They lost me at that last season. I won't even lie.
I know, and it's such
I was not as tapped in as I wanted it to be.
It's such a long wait, and I just don't know how invested I am anymore. I'll finish it because you have to,
too.
but there you have it. I also saw Guy Ritchie's new movie, Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. Guy Ritchie, who's been pretty much miss lately on films. He's been in kind of a cold streak. And to be honest with you, ever since he stopped making like the Lock, Stock, and Barrels and the Snatch, I was not a Sherlock Holmes guy. I was not into these kind of British heist movies that he did. This, though, is a pretty nice bounce back. If not an A, I think Guy Ritchie did a really good job here of kind of tipping his hat and paying homage to some of the really old action movies of the days of like The Great Escape, the Dirty Dozen. This is a violent one, but the good thing is it's just all killing Nazis, and it's how many different ways can we kill Nazis? What's his name from the Superman? He's the lead in this.
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, Henry Cavill. He's good. He makes a good team leader on this. I think it's fun putting a team together and going after Nazis. It's a throwback movie, and I think it's a lot of fun. I don't think it's groundbreaking. I think it's I think it's the worst name for a film in a long time. Even though that's what the British called them. This is based on a true story, and I can only imagine about 2% of it is true because the rest plays like a Guy Ritchie action film.
Yeah.
But I like it. Well done, Guy. Way to bounce back. I think it's a fun escapism movie, and I'm giving it a B-. So that's up there as well. And then finally, before I jump back in with Jackson, I did see the vampire ballerina movie Abigail, directed by Matt Bettini-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, who did the Scream reboots and Ready or Not. Melissa Barrera, formerly of Scream, and Catherine Newton of Lisa Frankenstein, and a team of hoodlums are hired by Giancarlo Esposito to watch over a kidnapped daughter of a billionaire who just happens to be a bloodsucker. This is campy. It's fun. It is very bloody. I think the cast commits 100% to this. If you're going to do a horror movie that doesn't take itself too seriously, I think this is the way to do it. It is not going to be for everybody. The ending is not great, but then again, it's so hard to stick the landing. But I think Abigail has just left the theaters. I know it's available to stream now, rent or buy. I think for fans of the franchise, it's definitely worth a look. It's a lot of fun, and I'm going to give it a solid B. So I'll get back to Unfrosted and Sasquatch Sunset a little bit later, but I do want to
There's
Go ahead.
There's a lot of good horror movies I feel like coming out now. I'm not talking about that one directly, but a lot of I'm excited for Longlegs. I'm excited for Cuckoo.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. The POV serial killer one? It's like in a violent way.
Oh yeah, well, it's everything from the killer.
These all look really interesting to me, and it's funny too because we both obviously talked about Immaculate and First Omen and how they were basically the same movie.
Yep.
But I saw something really interesting where I was talking about how it's like it's no surprise that those two movies came out now at the same time in like the generation that lost Roe v. Wade, and I thought that was a really interesting way of reading those two movies.
Yeah.
As like direct reactions to those, because they obviously deal with like being pregnant and kind of like demonic forces. So I don't know. I thought it was really interesting, but good horror movies on the way. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Yep. More reviews on that, and we'll touch base on challengers in a bit. But right now, let's get started. Maybe we'll start. Maybe we'll finish with Jackson's Art House Corner. Burns, what have you been up to besides the big ones? What have you seen? What have you curled up with?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what I haven't talked about yet. Last week did I talk about The Cranes Are Flying, the Russian movie?
Yes.
Okay, I did. Okay,
I'm pretty sure you talked about that.
I think that I definitely did.
Yes.
I'll start with this. This is a movie I saw for my Hong Kong cinema class. It's a title that you will recognize, but is not the one you're thinking of. Okay. I watched the Stephen Chow movie, King of Comedy.
King of Comedy with Robert De Niro, and he's doing the top show.
No, not the Scorsese one.
Love that movie. I've told you to watch it for 5 years now. You finally did it. Good job, son.
Maybe not. I wished that, honestly, this was the King of Comedy, though.
Okay.
Because I was not the biggest...
Before you get into it, you loved After Hours, didn't you?
After Hours, as it currently stands, is probably tied for my favorite Scorsese movie.
Okay, if you loved After Hours, you have to see King of Comedy. Okay. All right, just throwing it out there again.
Once I'm out of school, I'll prioritize seeing it.
Okay, so go on. This is the Japanese version.
This is a movie that was it's Hong Kong. This is Hong Kong. This came out in 1999. It has absolutely nothing to do with the King of Comedy that Scorsese is known for.
Okay,
it stars and is directed by Stephen Chow, who's famous for Shaolin Soccer and Kung Fu Hustle.
I know those.
Which I believe are more famous. This is an earlier work of his, I believe. And it's kind of like it's an action comedy, very slapstick and very referential. A lot of references to other Hong Kong movies I've seen this year, like Fists of Fury and a lot of the earlier Bruce Lee movies, and some Johnny To stuff as well.
Okay.
Kind of a miss for me, though. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, you're such a fan.
To be fair, I don't know if I was the exact audience for this movie. I feel like the comedy just was not my style. There was a really strange moment in this movie, Dad, and this didn't really affect my score, but it was just very odd. There was a reoccurring comedic bit where there's a naked baby running around, and at some point, Stephen Chow just flicks his penis. Stephen Chow just flicks this little baby's penis.
Well, in Hong Kong, Jackson, that's a sign of
I
respect.
don't know why.
You didn't know?
But he gets distracted at one point by this naked baby, and the kid won't leave him alone, and he flicks his penis. So if you want to see that, check out King of Comedy 1999. I don't really have much to say about this. It kind of just came and went. And so I'm gonna give King of Comedy a light 4. Yeah, keeping it in the same realm. I also, for my Hong Kong class, this is I believe a more famous film that sparked many a sequel, one of which had Mike Tyson in it. This is the movie Ip Man, another Hong Kong kung fu thriller.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be rating this movie because when I went to see it in my class, my teacher said, we're not going to be finishing this movie.
Oh, my God.
So I did not pay attention, and I did my work by myself, and then we just finished it anyways.
Oh, so there you go.
I did kind of watch the whole thing, but I wasn't really paying attention. I liked the parts that I saw. They had some really cool action sequences and some cool camera work, but I just wanted to mention that one.
That's a big cult underground, the Ip Man series.
That movie, Dad, is the first Hong Kong movie to make $1 billion, was a smash hit in China, as well as in Hong Kong, which we talked a lot about in class. Very interesting to talk about, but I wish I could talk more about it, and I can't.
You were doing schoolwork during half of it. God. Even in college, you're neglecting your assignments. All right.
I know.
Nothing changes.
Speaking of movies I had to watch for class, I was assigned to watch an Australian movie by one of my teachers. This is I think the breakout film from Toni Collette, who is obviously best known for Knives Out, Hereditary, and Little Miss Sunshine.
Is this Muriel's Wedding?
This is Muriel's Wedding.
Uh-oh. I love Muriel's Wedding. Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say. I feel like I misread this movie a bit because when I was my teacher, who is from Australia, made a great point about how this movie is very much an Australian movie, and in that the comedy is very satirical, and that doesn't always play for American audiences. And I unfortunately fell for that trap because that did not play to me at all.
That was a monstrous hit in the U.S.
Yeah.
It did really well here.
Yeah.
Oh, Jackson, it's Muriel. Muriel wants to get married.
I kind of hated her a little bit. And I think I was supposed to. According to my teacher, I was supposed to kind of not like her all the time. Mm-hmm. But I just couldn't find something to grab onto. I didn't hate it. I just really felt in between on it. Muriel's Wedding for me gets a 5.
Wow. That's an A- film for me.
Wow, really? Really?
Love. In fact, your mother and sister and I just watched that, I think, within the last year. And your sister
Did they like it?
Yes. Your mom loves it. Your sister really liked it. Yeah.
Man,
wow.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I wish that I could.
The search for a romantic comedy continues for Jackson. Let me write that down.
I know.
Still looking for
I'm
the
sorry.
I'm still looking
maybe
for
it's
the
just not my
rom-com.
genre.
All right, maybe. Wow.
Yeah, I'll get through this one really quickly. I sat down to rewatch Portrait of a Lady on Fire, a movie that we first watched together for this podcast.
Now, why did you watch that again?
I had to for class.
Okay.
And this is a movie that I have been hated on for my take religiously by friends. This is a beloved, critically acclaimed film that I just did not hit for me the first time I saw it. I liked it way better this time.
Really?
Way better.
Because
I really did.
thought it was a snore fest.
I really did. I think that and I mentioned this when we talked about it the first time, that I came in with the wrong connotation of what it would be. And just letting the story play out for itself this time, I really connected with it way more.
Maybe you need to start coming into films with no
I have
preconceived
a problem with that.
Yeah. You're gonna
I do.
Yeah, you're gonna have to like stop reading about film or looking into
it just pops up on my feed. I can't control it.
Wait till after you see it, because I'm not saying you're right or wrong about Portrait of a Lady, but yeah,
you're right.
Yeah. Like a lot of yours start with, I went into this film thinking, and I'm like, don't go in thinking. Just go in.
I know. I got to do better at that.
Right. Okay, what do you get?
Anyways, Portrait for me on a rewatch is going to get an 8.
An 8?
Yeah.
I think you were like a 3 or 4 on that the first time.
I gave it a 5, I think, the first time.
5. Okay.
Yeah. But I'm going to an 8. It really did impress. I really did feel strongly about it.
Not my jam.
Let's see. We're just going to keep trudging along. Me and my friend sat down to do a double feature that we were very confused about at first.
Okay.
This is a double feature.
Hobbs and Shaw?
Yeah, Hobbs and Shaw.
Oh.
The first film is Journey to Italy. This is a Roberto Rossellini movie. He's best known for his film Rome, Open City. This movie stars Ingrid Bergman and George Sanders as two British people who are taking a business trip to Italy to take care of some affairs.
Is this 60s? Is this from the 60s?
This is mid-50s. This is 1954.
Okay.
This is a very early film for both of them. And then immediately after watching that, I sat down to watch, Dad, a film called Certified Copy that is directed by Abbas Kiarostami, who I made you watch a film of his this week.
Yes.
This is one of his only films that does not take place in Iran. It stars Juliette Binoche, who is best known for being in the Three Colors trilogy.
Yep.
And also a guy named William Schimmel, who is an opera singer.
Okay.
In real life. The reason we watch both these together is because they're both about people who are not from Italy, couples who are not from Italy, kind of rediscovering their relationship through the city, specifically in Tuscany. I'll start with Journey to Italy. Man, I hated this movie so much.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It's a snore. Me and my friend were watching this together, just going like, what is happening? It's so interesting because the characters are both. Mm-hmm. They are so unlikable. But the movie wants you to like them so bad, and you can tell. They want you to root for their relationship, but these people are so insufferable. Mm-hmm. And even afterwards, we were like, was this a satire? And so we watched an interview with Scorsese talking about it, and he was like, no, he really likes this movie and likes this couple. And I'm like, Jesus, these people suck. Oh, like a lot.
Oh.
So yeah, Journey to Italy just did not live up to the hype, unfortunately. It's going to get a 3 out of 10 from me.
Oh, lowest score of the day for you so far.
Lowest score of the day. Which
kind of brings up, just to tease a bit, brings up an interesting point. Can you really enjoy a movie with completely unlikable characters? I think that might be a theme in a movie that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. But go on.
Exactly. The second movie, however, Dad, unbelievable. Certified Copy is a movie unlike any other, Dad.
What is the you said it's Juliette Binoche. What is the basic premise of this?
So you have since gotten a taste of the style of Abbas Kiarostami, and we'll talk about your thoughts on that later, but he is very heavy. All of his films in some way kind of deal with the audience perception of the movie, and kind of fiction versus reality. This is that idea to the max. It's a movie that starts out with a woman who is meeting an author for the very first time, and they're kind of traveling through Tuscany, But throughout the film, you start to question if this is really the first time that they're meeting, or if they're actually trying to recreate the first night that they met in Tuscany years before. The film doesn't answer that question. It leaves it very much up to your own interpretation. I have never had this with the movie, but I watched it with my friend. We talked about it for a long time. There was a very interesting thing that happened after the credits that both blew our minds. I went home, I laid down, and I just cried. I've never had that happen to me before. I've cried while watching a movie. I've cried thinking about a movie, but I went home and it just affected me on such a visceral, emotional level.
I don't like when I hear you're crying. I'm your father.
He is so good at just capturing the most simple essence of being a person. So many themes in this that just rang really close to home with me.
This was a scene that happened after the credits, so like a post-credit scene.
Kind of. Did
they tease that Thanos is still alive? Was that what it was?
Yeah. It's so funny because Tony Stark comes up with the Infinity Gauntlet.
That's what I thought.
It's my turn.
I thought that's probably what it was.
No, it wasn't the end credit scene that got to me. It really just was the straight up ending of the film. I mean, he has such a grasp of the form, and maybe it's just because I'm so close to him as a filmmaker. My review of his interview book that got published this year, I wrote a review for it that's actually going to be published in a film journal this summer at some point.
I did not know this.
Excited about.
I didn't know you're getting published.
I found out this week. Yeah, I'm going to be
published.
published.
Well, shut up. Text me, motherfucker, and let me know and stuff like that.
I will. I don't know when the issue is going to come out yet, but I'm very excited for that. I cannot recommend this movie enough, especially if you're a fan of his other work. I mean,
certified
this really,
copy.
Really hits to it just hit me on a deeper level. Certified Copy is going to get a 9 out of 10 for me.
9 out of 10. Oh, I thought you were going 10 there. I thought we might have had a new 10 there, but
it's very close, and on a rewatch, I can see it getting there.
All right.
You know, do you want me to touch on the films that I saw in theaters that you didn't? I guess I should also probably talk about, because that's kind of it for the movies that I saw.
Okay, well, why don't we
art house wise? But
we'll come back to your theater movies then. Just remind everybody that Jackson has given a 9 to Certified Copy, a movie that you're going to have to hunt down to find.
It's on Criterion. Please watch it.
But if you want to see a movie that gets a 4, Civil War with Kirsten Dunst. Civil War with Kirsten Dunst. We'll check back in with Jackson. I'm going to run down these last films before we get to our common ground and our choice. Do you have to go? I saw you look at the door. Is someone coming in?
No, I'm checking the temperature on my fan because it's hot as balls in this room.
Yeah, I noticed you're playing with your shirt a lot.
I have bad circulation in my room, and it's summertime, so it's getting...
Go turn something on.
No, the fan is on. It's just my fan is a temperature reader. I just wanted to see how hot it was in this room right now. 76 in this room right now.
Hey, speaking of hot, how about that Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt? The Fall Guy opened a week ago. This is another one of those films that Jackson and I both saw, so we're going to jump into that. I'm just teasing challengers because I know we're probably on polar opposites and we're going to fight about it. The Fall Guy, however, I'm hoping we're on the same page on this. By the way, I have not read a review online from any of my friends, colleagues, or people that I follow who did not love The Fall Guy.
Same with me. All of my friends have been eating this movie up like it's the best thing since sliced bread.
Yep. I did not. This is directed by David Leitch, I think that's how you say his name, who did this somewhat enjoyable Bullet Train and Deadpool 2. If you've been living under a rock, it is a reboot of the 80s show starring Lee Majors, who does make a cameo in the film in the post-credits. I really don't care if I spoiled it. He's going to show up. About Colt Seavers, he's the stuntman. In the TV show, he turns into a bounty hunter. Here they kind of set up the premise with this really hokey, stupid missing actor who might be a murderer. It also stars Aaron Taylor Johnson, you'll know from The Kingsmen and Tenet, and Hannah Waddington from Ted Lasso, who is, I'm sorry, so over the top in this and just sucking on a Diet Coke and I just could not get past her character at times. Gosling and the filmmaker David have called this movie a love letter to the stuntmen and women who work in our business. And I will say this, I do give kudos to those guys. They are underappreciated, underpaid.
Oh, absolutely. Unsung heroes of filmmaking.
And they do some really nice stunt work in that. Unfortunately, it is wrapped in one of the dumbest, lamest scripts. There is no romance here. It feels forced. The jokes fall flat. I can see Gosling and Blunt trying to make this thing work, and I do tip my hat to them. They're giving it their all. But, man, I don't know why people love this movie because I
don't get it either, man.
I did not get it remotely. It feels like everyone's trying to make something out of a premise. It does not pay off. I'm not going to give it an F because I think the stunt work, there's some really nice moments. I give kudos to the 2 stars for trying to make it work, but this is a solid D for me. Jackson, Fall Guy, what do you think? What'd you take away?
It's funny because I'm watching this sitting next to 2 producer friends of mine, and one of the opening scenes is like Emily Blunt. She's in director mode. She's like, all right, we're gonna do this and this and this.
So dumb.
And things just start blowing up for no reason.
And
no one can know why. And we're all, and I know this is dumb of me, but we're all industry people, and we're all just going, someone's getting sued.
Yeah,
this is insane.
I know.
And in a world in a profession where people actually like die doing this, I'm like, this is so weird. Emily Blunt's first scene, she's a camera operator, and I've never seen someone look less like a camera operator in my life.
I know.
I mean, you see a camera operator, and it's like someone who's got full tats smoking a cigarette, and it's like, this is Emily Blunt in full makeup. Give me a break.
Right.
I had a friend of mine who loved this movie. He said, how could you not like this movie? It's like being on a ride at Universal. And I was like, that is exactly why I hated this movie. Because it is like being on a ride at Universal. Yeah. And I was like, and he's like, well, do you just hate fun movies? And I'm like, no, but this is like simulated fun.
Yes.
Versus like, have you seen the car chase scene from To Live and Die in LA? Yeah, man, they really did that. They really did that. And it's awesome, and the characters are real, and you care about them. I couldn't care less about these characters. Yeah. If I wanted to see 2 40-year-olds fall in love in like an action comedy, I don't know. I don't even know, man. I just don't. I didn't care about them as characters.
Yeah.
I didn't think that the action was even enticing. Again, the stunt work is great. The stunt work's great in most stunt movies, to be fair. I mean, I give kudos to anyone who's willing to get punched in the face and get paid for it, because I could never. But at the end of the day, this story made no sense. And honestly, I spent 90% of this movie wanting to watch Nice Guys instead, because I miss Ryan Gosling, and I miss Ryan Gosling in a funny movie, and he did have some funny moments in this, and it just made it harder to watch the moments that didn't hit for me.
Nice Guys with him and Russell Crowe is such a good.
I love that
such
movie.
An underrated.
That
and
movie.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. That guy knocked it out of the park on both those. Yeah, you nail it on the head. It feels like a movie that almost is saying, look how much fun we had making this. You should have fun watching us have fun making it.
Even the end credits was like, all these BTS stuff. And I do like when people do the BTS stuff, but it just felt like, we just want to have a good time with this thing. It's like, for sure. Did you think about the story? How's that work?
Right.
How are we working on the story on that level? So I don't know.
It's a murder.
Just a swing and a miss.
Oh, just on a completely technical level, this movie. The scene where the girl attacks him with a sword, and then she's oh
my God. Whoa.
First off, she's swinging and she's chopping through things, and it's knocking over and it's splitting things, and then at the end it goes into a wall. It literally goes into wood.
Yeah.
And then he's like, is this a fake sword? And I'm like, for a fake sword, it just did a crap load of damage. I'm like, what are you talking about? But,
Matthew Vaughn's effect on the action movie will...
I don't know. What are you giving Fall Guy, buddy?
Fall Guy gets a 2.
Oh, worst rated film of the... Yeah, well...
Yeah.
There you have it. Also, just to put a bow on a couple things, we did mention earlier that Jerry Seinfeld movie on Netflix is called Unfrosted. He wrote it and directed it. Melissa McCarthy's in it. Jim Gaffigan, Amy Schumer. They take on the bulk of this. This movie has more cameos. It would take me hours to list every little cameo that comes into this. This is a skit that goes about an hour and 10 minutes too long. There are cute little moments. I get the idea that he's trying to make a film that's just jokes. It's just light. It's not trying to say anything. It's about the most mundane thing, how Post and Kellogg fought over who would have the best breakfast pastry in the morning that would kill cereal. It becomes cartoonish where like sea monkeys are put in a pasta thing and they come to life and they roam around the office. What? And the mascots, Snap, Crackle, and Pop, have a January 6th riot on them trying to certify the FDA. Hell? It is so crazy and so weird. Some people, this is might be up their alley. It is not mine. Unfrosted on Netflix gets a D+ for me. I was never a big fan of Seinfeld, and this did not change anything, unfortunately. And yeah, Jackson, he said some crazy stuff lately. I don't want to get all political with it, but I agree with you. When a guy who does nothing that in his entire career has been quote unquote woke, and now he's saying you can't do woke in comedy anymore, I'm like, you never have. You know, what's up with these airline peanuts?
Because my whole thing is like the guy that you created Seinfeld with just finished his show where the whole bit is that he's like the worst guy.
Yeah.
Like, so clearly he figured it out. Like, why is this so difficult for you?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my take on Jerry Seinfeld, but what are you going to do about it?
And then finally, before we get to challengers and our picks this week, here's a movie I'm surprised Jackson did not rush out to see. I thought he was a little more into this than I was. It's called Sasquatch Sunset.
I do still want to see this. I might hit it when it hits streaming if it's not still in theaters.
Yeah, this is another movie like Civil War that I've got a big beef with the studios because this was not publicized correctly. The trailers for this make this seem like a comedy, and this movie is dark, and it is depressing.
Oh my God, okay.
It is directed by David and Nathan Zellner, who last worked on Nathan Fielder's The Curse. Jesse Eisenberg and Riley Keough and co-director Nathan Zeller play 3 of the 4 Bigfoots that are kind of wandering the forests of the Appalachian or somewhere, just trying to survive and find their way in the world. Yeah, there's a lot of penis jokes and a lot of sex stuff, and
sure.
But this movie also deals with death. It deals with how harsh the human world is. It has to deal with how harsh we can turn on each other. And those far outweigh all the Bigfoot dick jokes that come here and there. I have to be honest with you. I left the theater really depressed. This is,
oh my God.
This is a movie about the slaughter of the nature in our world.
Jesus
about
Christ.
how we turn our backs on wildlife and just how harsh the world can be when left to its own devices. I didn't really enjoy Sasquatch Sunset. I give it
it doesn't seem like it.
Give it kudos for trying for what it was.
Sure.
But I cried, and not necessarily in a cry where you feel cathartic afterwards. Sasquatch. Sure. I'll be very, very curious to hear what you think about this movie.
Yeah, now I really want to see it. Jeez.
Yeah, but don't go in expecting all that. Oh, there's a porcupine.
Right.
I farted on it. It gets dark. Sasquatch Sunset for me gets a C-. So
yeah, fair enough.
It's right in that area. The PGN podcast, Parental Guidance is Neglected. Before we get to Challengers, the movie that both of us have seen most recently, that I'm most curious to hear what Jackson thinks about. We did play our little game last time we saw you called Love It As Much As I Loved It. Jackson, I picked a film for him, and I requested he watch it with his lady friend. I hope he did, because I think it would speak to her.
I did, and I
well.
didn't get a chance to.
Okay. Okay.
I wish I did, but I didn't get a chance.
I picked one of Christopher Guest's movies, The Big Picture. We're going to start with that first. Sure. I picked this for Jackson because I do think he's a fan of Christopher Guest. I think it's a really, really good film of his to see that's not improvised, that has definitely a script going for it. It has a lot to do with young college kids coming right out of college and getting into the business. Some of it might be dated. The industry somehow has changed. And in other ways, it hasn't changed at all. It stars Kevin Bacon, Martin Short, several of the Spinal Tap people, as well as several cameos. Jackson,
Several cameos.
I love The Big Picture, maybe because it spoke to me about this town and being a true artist and being true to yourself. with plenty of Christopher Guest humor involved. I hope you loved it as much as I loved it. What did you think of The Big Picture?
I kind of loved it as much as you did.
Okay.
I don't know
Well,
if it hit as close to home as I was hoping, but
I'm not saying it was the best picture of all time. I just think it's a really good film, and one that I thought you would resonate with you.
I think that in the grand scheme of Christopher Guest movies that I've seen, I think this is on the lower end, just because I think that I connect more with his comedy when it comes to the improvised stuff. I think that stuff is so genius, and that really is just my kind of humor. Okay. And I think that I did miss some of that here. So it's interesting to me that you said this was scripted, because I didn't know that there was like the difference. But now that you mention it, you can definitely tell. This movie has a lot of really great moments. I think, especially, what's his name?
Martin Short.
Here. Martin Short is absolutely hilarious. Martin Short is the best part of this movie, I think.
The agent.
His character. I mean, Martin Short is just probably one of the funniest people to ever exist on the planet. I think he's great. He is absolutely hilarious. But I also thought that Michael McKean really had a great role in this as like the grounded cinematographer.
Loved him. Loved that he was very real, very down to earth.
100%.
Didn't put on a Spinal Tap character or something. Yeah,
exactly. This movie is dated in the way that a struggling cinematographer can afford a house and a child.
I knew you were going to say that.
LA, which I think is funny. It makes me a little bit jealous.
Yeah,
I won't lie.
That doesn't happen much anymore.
And just elephant in the room, and this doesn't affect my score at all, but elephant in the room, not Harvey Weinstein, Jesus. What's his face is in this. Dan Schneider is in this movie, which is a tough watch in the midst of all this Nickelodeon stuff. But, I think that for me, this movie, what my disconnect begins and ends with the ending of the movie. I thought that this movie had a really interesting chance to end on this guy just not making it. And I don't know if I was rooting for him to not make it, but I think that it was the more realistic portrayal.
But did he really make it? I mean, he was working. He brings his friends on, but it looked like it was like a little low budget, independent, passion thing.
But still, I mean, he had the backing from the big producer still.
Yeah.
And I think that there was one scene in particular where he just. It just seems like all is lost, and maybe I'm just cynical, but I was like, maybe this is just the way it should be for this guy.
Yeah. You wanted to see him not succeed and work at Kmart and be like, well,
yeah,
I gave it a shot.
I kind of did because it's hard not to make some parallels to a movie. And again, this is a movie that I really love. To The Player in some ways, of like the satire of Hollywood.
Yeah. It is
obviously this is from a very different perspective.
It's not as good a movie as The Player is a masterpiece. This I thought was a really, really good comedy about the industry from the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I wish the ending had gone differently. I also think that some scenes could have maybe I don't know, some characters could have maybe been cut. There was a lot of cameos in this movie. And some of it sometimes it felt like look who we got. And I'm like, all right, that's cool. But overall for me, I think The Big Picture I'm going to give a solid 7.
Okay. I'll take it. Again.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't pull. It was one that I thought, it's not a classic film, but I thought, boy, at least it's something that I think would entertain you and you would relate to on some level. So.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
I'll take it. So I love The Big Picture. Jackson very much liked The Big Picture. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Jackson assigned me a movie from I think it was the 90s, 1990...
97.
97, yes. Directed by someone he's already mentioned today. He watched the movie Certified Copy, which is probably his biggest film since it did have a name in it, Juliette Binoche. This is a very, 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 very small, low-budget movie. Directed and written by Abbas Kiarostami. Did I say that correctly? Am I close?
Yeah, Abbas Kiarostami.
Yeah.
But before you give your review, I do want to intro though. Once you're done with your
you go right ahead. It's your pick. You tell me.
This is not my favorite Abbas Kiarostami film. It's close, but it's not. But I recommended this one for you because I think it's the best foray into his movies and his style. I think that it's his best shot movie. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of Iranian and Middle Eastern movies kind of get sucked into that, like doing like the really warm look, you know what I mean, where it's like the desert and all that. I think he finds a really unique way of shooting. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that it just takes place in one car. I think it's a really cool concept. But honestly, most importantly, I really do think this is the best introduction into his style of a filmmaker that I find incredibly close to my heart. So I really hope that you like this one. I know it's kind of a slow burn, but I'm excited to hear what you have to say. Oh, shit.
Okay.
Oh, no!
So do you want the good or do you want the bad?
Give me the good
And I'm not
news
saying
first.
I'm not saying what outweighs one or the other. Okay.
Give me the good.
The director, not the director, the star, the gentleman, and I can not in a million years pronounce his name. It is, I think, Hamas, not Hamas.
Yeah.
His name's not Hamas.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, not that.
Yeah, look up his name, young Jamie, while I'm thinking about it. I think that he gives a really good, subtle performance.
Sure.
And does
He was also in Zero Dark 30, actually. Funny enough,
was he?
A small role.
I think he does an incredibly good job. This movie, for anyone who doesn't know, is about a man who is planning to commit suicide, and he's still not even himself 100% sure if he's going to go through with it, but he's trying to find somebody to hire who will to make sure that if he does in fact go through with it, will bury his body so that he could be laid to rest. Probably for religious and cultural reasons. And probably maybe we don't really ever know. We don't know the backstory. We don't know why he's doing this. He alludes to the fact that he can no longer live because his life is filled with too much pain. We don't know if it's a sickness, family, death. We don't know. And I think that's a powerful concept to take that we were never given that backstory. He is very good. This movie reminded me in many ways, and this may seem weird, it reminded me a lot of Perfect Days, which is a foreign film that came out last year, where that movie really dealt with a man kind of going through the mundane phases of his work, his day-to-day routine. The movie was very monotonous at times as we kind of just watched him go through his day by day, dealing with cleaning bathrooms and how he prepared his breakfast and how he shaved. This movie is really just about an hour and a half of him driving around, interviewing possible people that for some reason get into his car. I got to be honest with you, before I knew what was going on, I was getting major pedophile or serial killer vibes. I'm like,
I think it's a cultural thing because most of his films take place involving cars, and I think it's way more relaxed there because cars are rare. So when you find one and someone's willing to give you a ride,
it must be because strangers jump in this guy's car and he starts saying things like, "You want to make money," and I'm like, "Oh my God, is he going to offer them sex?" I mean, But he does a great job. It's a fine line. It's a fine line between minimalism and nothing really happening, and that
everything.
That movie sometimes goes back and forth. Once we learn that he's trying to commit suicide and that he is searching for somebody, I did find kind of a sense of repetitiveness with this. Also, there's a very weird, hard edit in the middle of this movie where we find how he stumbles upon the soldier that he comes to take into his car. We find out how he stumbles upon the security guard and the student who's going to religious school. But then suddenly the taxidermist is just in his car. Like I don't even know where he picked him up from. He's just suddenly he was there, and I was like, that's a very weird edit to suddenly go to this guy going, okay, I'll do it. And I'm like, who is this? That was a bit jarring. Okay, I did enjoy the way there would be long takes where he would just keep the camera on the man contemplating suicide and not show the person he was talking to. It really was an effective tool in that instead of cutting back and forth, we saw how every word and thought was affecting him, and you could almost see him in his head still contemplating. Like someone will make a point about, there was a lot of preaching about, you can't kill yourself, it's a sin, but you could see him wrestling with it. And that is the true nature and the theme of the movie, wrestling with it.
Sure.
The parts I didn't like is there are a lot of really wide shots of a car riding back and forth through this valley with nothing but the voice of the actors inside the car. That got a bit tired to me. It was done too much. It was like, so literally you got to understand, there would be 5-6 minute segments of you just watching a car driving through a valley and hearing the two gentlemen in the car having a discussion. And I think that outwore its welcome. So I've said some good things and I've said some bad things.
Okay.
The ending of the film tilted it for me, and unfortunately, it tilted me the wrong way.
You need the ending.
Oh my God. I don't get it. And I'm not gonna. I'm gonna have to play spoiler a little bit. It's not the open-endedness about what happened to him or what the final finale is. I do not get the breaking of the fourth wall. I don't.
So you have to.
You're going to have to explain it to me, because to
okay,
suddenly
I will
that,
because I've done. Yeah.
Okay. How do I say this without giving it away? I don't. So
you can give it away. It's a 90s Iranian foreign film.
So
I don't think anyone here.
We're left with the final shot of will he or won't he take his life, and I'm fine with that. And the screen goes black, and I'm gonna go, okay, Sopranos. We don't know. Maybe he's going to do it. Maybe he's going to not. I get it. It's not important. It was the journey that got him here. After a couple seconds, we cut to behind the scenes footage of the actual filmmakers and a bunch of the extras who were playing military marchers who we had seen earlier in the film in the distance. And basically, we see them recording ADR, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, or not ADR, but we're getting tones. Oftentimes, sound people will record audio of whether it's the wind, leaves rustling, the marchers in the distance. They literally are on walkie-talkie telling the marchers, okay, we're going to start recording right now, and they're filming them, and then they're picking up sound. It's literally 2 minutes of what looks to be documentary footage of the movie that we just watched, and then the credits roll. And
so
I don't get it. I'm sorry.
He directly talks about this in his book in two ways. The first is that in the book that I wrote the review on, there's a section that it's a letter that a critic wrote to him. Because there was rumors that when he was showing the film, after it premiered, when he was showing the film in Italy, there were certain screenings that took out the ending, that took out the ending, and the critic was saying, "Please, you have to put the ending back in. This is what makes or breaks the movie." And Kiarostami responded and said, "Don't worry. Like in the official cut, the ending will stay. Okay. I simply just wanted to see how audiences would react to me taking it out." And they actually reacted better, but he kept it in. And his reasoning is that you have to, by breaking the fourth wall in the end, you separate the character from reality. It brings the audience back to their own life and understanding that this is a story and a situation that I have created in a fictionalized space. Mr. Body is not real, but what you have to think about is your own life. Think about what's happening behind the camera.
Okay.
And it's a key aspect of his filmmaking, and I understand that you haven't seen all his films.
Right.
But as someone who has, this is kind of the lightest he does it. This is like the lightest that he ever does this. There are moments in his other films where characters are playing like themselves. I mean, most of the actors in this are not actors.
Right.
And I could talk for hours about his process. Yeah. Which really is unique in my opinion.
And it showed that they're not actors, but that was fine. It didn't take away from me.
But for me, the ending is so important in understanding his overall mission as a filmmaker, and for me, in a lot of ways, the film and what he wants to say with it. Because it's the movie isn't about Mr. Body; it's about yourself. Why are you not?
But here's the problem.
You have to think about it.
But here's the problem, Jackson. As a viewer, if I leave the theater and I don't get that, has the filmmaker failed? If that's his message, and I don't walk away with that in any sense.
No,
I could go.
This is what
I could go online.
This is what he's
and read that
preventing.
later.
This is what he's preventing. But you couldn't go online and read it later because it's 1997 and it's Iran. Like, what are you going to do? Go to the newspaper?
Then I really would have been pissed because then I'd be like,
what I'm saying. What he's preventing by adding in this ending is you asking yourself, what happened to Mr. Body? What happens to Mr. Body is not important. Whether or not he lives or dies is irrelevant to the story.
Okay, but
me and you both know that audiences were going to leave that theater going, oh, well, what do you think happened to Mr. Body? By adding in this breaking of the fourth wall, he's saying, you shouldn't give a fuck what happens to Mr. Body. Mr. Body is irrelevant. He's a stand-in for yourself. He's a stand-in for your own life. See this? He's an actor. This is, like, do you understand what I'm saying? This is not a real situation.
I almost think if that was the point, and I did not get it, I get it now that you tell me. I almost think that fourth wall should have had the actor in it. I don't think it did.
It did have the actor in it.
He was? I didn't recognize him.
He was in it.
Oh, he must have been
totally in it.
A quick shot.
Oh, I'm gonna freak out. This is so upsetting. This is someone who is so important to me that I have poured hours of my time into researching his process. And I understand.
I had a lot of good things to say about this film. I love the way he kept the camera on him and let it dwell. I thought the performance was fantastic. I love the search of the story went through. It's not that I didn't walk out and go, what? Huh? I turned it off and I was like, I'm not.
I'm not saying, but
I was struggling to figure out what it meant, and I didn't.
Exactly, because you're sitting there and you're thinking, what did the movie mean, as opposed to being absolved in what happened to the character.
No, I got the movie. The movie made sense to me. I got it. And at the end, when it goes black and he's just lying there and we don't know what happens, I got it. At that point. I went, this was his journey to it doesn't, whether he did or didn't, I've been on this journey with him.
But do you think the common man would have left that theater going, of course, like, I should be thinking about the story as a whole as opposed to the character? All I'm saying is that I think that what you're talking about right now is exactly what he wanted to happen. And I consider that a success as a filmmaker.
Okay. All right.
That's my argument.
All right. I did not love it the way you love it, but I certainly did not dislike it.
Just give it a C and just put a knife in my back.
Taste of Cherry gets a C from me. It's a C. It's a C. There's just too many shots of a car driving through.
I could watch 5 hours. And by the way, and I mean this generally, his movies, this movie in some ways, but specifically his trilogy of films that he takes place around, has influenced my cinematography style immensely. I think his stills are just gorgeous. And I'm not saying that you're saying that. I'm just saying, yes, it's just gorgeous stuff.
Shot very well, very minimalistic. A lot of very, very smart creative choices, and he got a great performance out of the central actor. I think that he used a couple devices a little too much. I think it does show that some of the people are not great actors. And the ending, while it makes sense now that you're telling me that, I wish that maybe it's me. Could be me. It's just me. I'm just one guy.
Well, it's not, because general audiences liked it better without the ending.
Yeah.
But I respect him for staying true to his vision.
That ending didn't make my score change. It probably still would be the same. It just can't. I didn't go, what? I just went, I know there's a reason for it. I just didn't get it. So Jackson will be back in the coming months with Love It As Much As. And one day we're gonna find a movie. Have we found a movie yet that we both love and the other one goes, dude?
I think we have. Do we know each other? What are I'm trying to remember.
There has to be one that you see that you go, I think I loved it more than you actually did. That hasn't happened. That definitely hasn't happened.
That definitely hasn't happened. Yeah. We have baby steps. Baby steps.
We're getting there. We got to get on the same page. So maybe, just maybe, we are on the same page with our last movie to discuss today. and that is Luca Guadagnino. Did I say that right?
Well, hold on. I have a few theater movies that I also have to talk about.
Oh, that's right.
I don't know
That's
if you
right.
want to get into that
No, I
beforehand,
forgot. There's a couple that Jackson saw that I did not, and I actually am very excited to hear about this.
I will talk about these pretty quickly. The first one you've already talked about and seen. It is the directorial debut from Dev Patel, Monkey Man.
Oh, that's right.
I saw in theaters.
Now I gave it. I gave it a solid B. I thought it was an entertaining. It had its faults, but I gave it a solid B, and I said I was very curious to hear what you thought about it. Go ahead.
I think I'm right along with you on that. I definitely agree this movie has its faults, and it definitely. I think despite Dev's best intentions, I think it does still parallel some John Wick elements, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I had a great time watching this.
Yeah.
Just a truly fun. I mean, a character that you can root for. I thought the shots were gorgeous. Honestly, I didn't think I would agree with you on this, but I do agree that I think he kind of did a little bit too much sometimes. Got maybe a little bit in his own head about whether or not he was doing enough.
Yeah.
But you know what I didn't expect? This movie is funny. This movie had some really funny moments.
Yeah, the sidekick's funny.
I thought the sidekick's funny. I thought there's a really fun moment when he's we're all expecting him to jump through this window, John Wick style, and even the camera is set up like it's about to go on a crane out through the window, and he just doesn't. It just does not break at all, and he falls on his ass. Just some really great fun moments. A lot of good throwbacks to early kung fu stuff, and yeah, I had a great time with this one. And I'm gonna give Monkey Man a 7.
It's a little slow out of the gate. It takes a little while to kind of heat up, but I think once it does, I agree with you wholeheartedly. All right, we're on the same page with Monkey Man. What else did you see, brother?
We are. I saw this is a movie that got a lot of buzz at Sundance. Probably the most what do you call it? Anticipated film coming out from this year. It's the sophomore effort from filmmaker Jane Schoenbrunn, who had a very, very low budget debut in 2021 with a movie called We're All Going to the World's Fair. This movie is I Saw the TV Glow. It stars Justice Smith as well as Bridget Lundy Payne. It's scored by a music artist that I really love named Alex G, which I didn't know about. I was so excited for this movie. This is one of my most anticipated of the year. I think the trailer was phenomenal. It's everything I wanted from a trailer.
Oh no.
I am very excited to see what Jane Schoenbrunn does next. I think that there were a lot of really this movie in general is very brave and powerful. It is. I don't think I'm spoiling much by saying this, but I think that
what's it about in a nutshell?
It's really difficult to summarize. This is definitely I would say on the experimental side of filmmaking. It's about two awkward teens who are growing up together, who are struggling with their identity, and who kind of fan over a mysterious TV show called The Pink Opaque. And when one of them disappears, supposedly into their TV, the other one is forced to deal with the reality of life.
Okay.
Which actually was I think I did a really good job of summarizing that for someone who was kind of confused by it. My problem with this movie lies in two things. I think that this movie, it really tries to avoid a lot of, I'll call them film school cliches, and I just don't think it does it well. There were some moments that I felt were very much
student-y.
I've seen before student-y. I've seen them before in my own screening room. And listen, we've all been there. I totally get it, but I did feel that. Again, I don't think I'm spoiling anything. This is absolutely a. I don't even know if I want to say this, because it's. I think that I understood this movie's messaging 15 minutes into it, and the rest of it felt like the same thing that I'd already grasped from it. This is a queer story. This is a terrifying queer story, I will say, which is no surprise considering the filmmaker is a trans woman. And I think that the last 15 minutes of this do a fantastic job of subverting my expectations, doing something completely unique, and honestly terrifying me for the rest of the night. Not in a scary way, but in a more existential sense. Wow. But I really do think that the remainder of this movie, specifically the first half, I just got it immediately, and I didn't feel like there was much. A movie that seemed to really want me to investigate it further. I felt I won't call it empty, because this again is a very brave film with a lot to say, but I think that they say it very fast, and in a way that is not as subliminal as I think it was intended.
Huh. Now, when I saw the trailer for this, I think I was in the theater with your mother, and I think both of us turned to it at the very end and went, Jackson's going to love that. We're going to hate it.
I really thought that I would. I don't know if you'll love it. I think that you will agree with me that the last 15 minutes of this are really something special, because I think that the acting of that last 15 minutes is phenomenal, from Justice Smith especially.
Okay.
But I agree with you. I saw this in theaters and I was like, this is great. All of my friends were giving this glowing reviews, but I really just felt like I felt like I got it way too fast.
So it didn't glow as much for you as it did for others.
No, and it tries to do. Did you ever watch the Twin Peaks Return?
No, I heard it was horrible. Even you said it wasn't that good.
Yeah, I stand by that. They do this thing in Twin Peaks: The Return where at the end of every episode they have somewhat like a live performance, where it's like, oh, it's someone performing at the Great Lodge, whatever. And this movie does that halfway through, and it's a very clear nod to Twin Peaks, but it's in the middle of the movie, and I was just like, it was like a 3-minute concert with Phoebe Bridgers, and I was like, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. There's lots of critique here, but by and none, I really do want to hammer down. I'm very excited that Jane Schoenbrunn is making movies. I really cannot wait to see what she does next. There's a lot of really great material here. I think it just needed to be really refined and more honed in.
Okay, all right. And what number are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it a 6.
6. Okay, it's not bad. For you, that's not bad at all.
It's not a bad score. I had a good time and I enjoyed it. It just wasn't what it wasn't. It could have been better.
Well, it's on my list. You know, I see everything eventually. So if I can't see it in the theaters, I find a way. So.
You're not gonna like it. You're not gonna like it.
Okay,
at all,
great.
It's okay.
Then it's off my list and never speak of that movie to
you
me
should,
again. It's
you
dead
should
to me.
see it, but I don't think you're gonna like it.
All right, maybe we'll find out in a future episode.
Who knows?
Maybe in next month's episode. Anything else? Anything else?
That's it. I think we're going to move
That's it. All right, here it is, our finale today. Before we get to our last movie, which is Challengers, I will let you know that next week, hopefully, we'll be on. We got the new movies Back to Black. That's the Amy Winehouse biopic is coming out.
I probably won't see that.
Jackson already said no. If will be out as well. That's Imaginary Friend with our good friend and show friend Ryan Reynolds. He's been on several times already. The Strangers Chapter 1, in case you want to know how they started killing people, is out. And a comedy from Pamela Alden called Babes is opening. So we're going to see as many of those as we can and be back to you. Also, next week, it's the return of our top 10s. We are going to have a new top 10, and I have 3 choices for Jackson. I always get it down to 3, and I let Jackson decide what it's going to be. So next week, it's the return of the PGN podcast top 10s. Jackson, here are your 3 choices for next week. Do you want to come up with and list your 10 best living actors or actresses that have not won an Academy Award? Number 2, your 10 most promising new directors? Or 3, your 10 not best or worst follow-up directors. That's directors who had an amazing first film and then laid an egg on their second. Now, they could have gone on to make other films that got better, but when you look at it, you go, this one was great, and then they came out, bam. Which of those 3?
I think I want to do the 10 best living actors who have not won an Academy Award.
Okay, we are going with next week. Jackson and I will be back with movie reviews as well as our top 10 list of best living. This is living. If they're dead, they have living no chance. This is people who we think need to win an Academy Award at some point. Actor or actress, doesn't matter. We're not being sexist here. Or trans. Anyone who's out there that we think we're shocked they haven't won an Academy Award, and they need to, if not now, soon. So we have that to look forward to on the PGN podcast. And again, make sure to leave comments, especially if you're watching or listening on YouTube. You can watch us and listen and see our bright, shiny faces. And hopefully Jackson will be back next week with a new microphone. We'll see how that goes. We mentioned it's director Luca Guadagnino from Call Me By... Guadagnino.
Right.
who burst onto the scene with his Academy Award-nominated film Call Me By Your Name. It, of course, starred Timothy Chalamet and that other guy whose name we no longer mention. Also did a follow-up with Chalamet called Bones and All about vampires, which I had very mixed feelings on. His third big film...
And a remake of Suspiria that no one really mentions. I haven't seen it, but he did
a remake of Suspiria that a lot of people love, but it just looked way, way too dark for me. It's Challenger. Zendaya, she's still the hottest girl in town. She plays Tashi Donaldson. She's an up-and-coming tennis sensation at Stanford who suffers a career-ending injury and turns to coaching. She is torn between two men, Mike Faust, or however you pronounce it.
Mike Faust, yeah.
Faust of West Side Story, and Josh Connor, who most people know from Netflix's The Crown.
He was also in a movie that came out, I think, either early this year or late last year called La Chimera that I never saw, but I heard got good reviews, so I might see that soon.
Oh, okay. This movie is very much not just about the match that is occurring on the court, but off the court. It is a three-person vehicle. There really is no one else in this movie. The score is done by Trent Reznor, who I am a huge fan of when it comes to movie scores. That's going to be a controversial note on this film. I'm going to be very curious to see what Jackson thought about it. I thought for the most part they made some pretty creative, bold, and I think effective choices with the score. This is another one of those open-ending movies where we're not really sure where it's going to go from here. And like I teased earlier, I do feel that this is one of those movies where none of the characters are really very redeeming at all. Can you enjoy a film if there's someone that you can't be rooting for? Because I certainly was not rooting for anyone in Challengers, and I very much enjoyed it. But before I continue, Jackson, your initial thoughts on Challengers.
We are so back with this movie. We are so unbelievably back with this movie.
I don't know what that means, but that could be good or bad.
By the last scene of this movie, let me paint a picture of you.
Yeah.
I saw this at like a 3 p.m. screening on a Wednesday on an off chance. I'm just by myself.
Uh-huh.
I'm in the middle of the theater. There's no one. There's like two other people. There's a couple in the back that I can't even see or hear. They're in the back, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm just completely in this. It's the last scene of the movie, and I'm sitting here gripping my chair like I'm in a roller coaster scene.
Yeah.
Like leaning forward in my seat. Mm-hmm. This is my movie of the year so far.
It is very good.
I could not believe... I'm getting so excited just talking about it. This movie knocked my socks off like I could never... And I'm not even the biggest Luca Guadagnino fan. I fell asleep during Bones and All, to be frank. It wasn't the fault of the movie, but I just was tired.
Yeah.
I do enjoy Call Me By Your Name, but some people love that movie and swear by it. I think it's pretty good. God, but this movie just struck such a chord. It was entertaining. It was erotic. You know what? I'm just gonna say it. I'm glad that we're bringing erotic movies back. We had Poor Things last year. We have Challengers this year. The score. Oh my God, the score. I loved it.
Great.
It drove the story forward. Dad, this entire movie, the way it's shot,
it's beautiful.
The dialogue, the editing, it's all done like a tennis match. We're literally going back and forth in time. The conversations are literally like back and forth like a tennis. It's
yeah. It is really, really good film.
So I'm speechless.
I can see why it's not doing gangbusters at the box office, because I think your average Zendaya fan, or again, we're getting into the marketing of this movie where it makes it seem like this hot, and it is erotic. Here's the thing. It's a very erotic film without being graphic. There's not three.
Yes.
There's no three.
Yes.
We don't have to have naked people rolling all over each other. Oftentimes the tension, the proximity with which in the actors play, there is a lot of homoerotic tension here, even though we never really completely cross that line, but you can feel it between the two male leads. Zendaya, this is her best work to date. I was blown away by Josh Connor, and that's not to take anything.
He was so good.
Yeah, not to take anything away from Mike Feist. He's also very solid here, but Josh Connor is definitely the standout here. I can see where some people would have problems. The Trent Reznor score, it's very techno, and it comes over all of the tennis scenes, which, by the way, I've never seen a movie shoot something as mundane and boring as tennis and make it as eclectic and as exciting. Just the camera work.
You are the ball,
the ball
under
perspective.
the court.
But they have often this very techno, high-intense music playing. And that same music comes back on these little intimate scenes where people are discussing and arguing. And at first I was a little jarred by it. I'm like, why is there music? And then I'm realizing that the match is happening off the court just as much, if not more, as on the court. And maybe that's not the subtlest choice in the world. It is a little in your face, but I still thought it was a very bold and brave choice, and I thought it worked perfectly for me. The movie looks amazing, and I don't know if it was written this way. I don't know if it's the editors, but the time jumps back and forth were seamless. It
just works so well.
There was never a moment where I felt like I was being jarred by going back 10 years, the next day, 2 hours before. It really, really built the tension and let the backstory breathe. If this had been a linear film, like here's them starting at Stanford and going through,
worked,
it never in a million years would have worked. I agree with Jackson wholeheartedly. I'm apprehensive to go completely gaga for the film because I do think that there was a few moments in the movie where I wasn't always 100% sure what their intentions were, and I would say most probably with Mike Face character. By the end, at the end I think I got him, but I was like, is he in love with her? Is he not? Does anyone? I think by the end we all know none of them really love. They're just all despicable people playing a chess game.
Sure.
Playing a chess game. So I'm going to, and I do want to see this again, but for now I'm going to go. I'm going to go B+. I can't quite go A yet, but it's up there.
I'm going to go 9. I'm going to go 9 out of 10.
Okay.
And this isn't part of the reason why my score is not a 10, but it's just something that I thought was worth mentioning.
Yeah.
This movie goes out of focus a lot. And I know that's a niche note, but it's something that I have to pay attention to because it's my job.
Okay,
There's a lot of moments where the focus is just, we're going back and forth, and you got to get the eyes, and we're just going back and forth. And I'm like, you got to lock it in, man.
I didn't catch
that. You got to lock it in.
I didn't catch that.
So it's unfortunate, but Challengers for me gets a 9. It's my movie of the year so far. We'll see if anything can top it.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. And I do feel like now, just kind of knowing the pace, I really would like to go back and kind of watch it again.
Yeah, me too.
Especially for the performances. Well, I'm glad we're back, Jackson. I'm glad we agree.
We are. Welcome back, cinema. We've made it. 2024 revival.
If you did not like that film, I was going to be like, what?
Did you think I wasn't going to like that?
I had a feel. I don't know. I was on the fence.
Fair enough.
So you never know.
Yeah.
Once again, we are Regan and Jackson Burns, 2 generations talking movies. We got them all done. I swear to you, I know I say this every single time. We're going to do our very best to be back next week with a
I'm out of school next week, so it should be
There
better.
you go. So with a couple new movie reviews, maybe catch up on a couple oldies, and we will also be back with our top 10 list of the best living actors or actresses who should but have not won an Academy Award.
But they can have been nominated in that
Absolutely.
one?
Just
Okay,
how's
sure.
this person not won an Academy Award? And somebody who we truly hope will in the future. So we'll work on those lists. Until then, anything else, Mr. Burns?
I think that's it. That's it for me, man.
Thanks for your support, everybody. It's a labor of love for us. We love talking movie, and thanks for you that listen. All right, love you, buddy. I'll see you next time.
Love you too. Peace.